Welcome everyone to APAICS 2021-22 Congressional Fellowship Graduation Ceremony. My name is Danielle Moon. I'm the Director of Programs and Community Engagement at APAICS, the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. I want to first thank everyone for your flexibility and understanding for rescheduling. We had to switch to virtual given the COVID cases that we had within the cohort and catching it myself. So I hope everyone's staying safe, and I really appreciate everyone for your understanding. So with that, I'm going to introduce our President and CEO, Marilyn Milka, for her opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Danielle, for the introduction. I'm Marilyn Milka, President and CEO of APAICS, the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. On behalf of APAICS, it's my pleasure to welcome you, our distinguished guests, family and friends of the fellows, APAICS alumni, board members, and partners to the graduation ceremony of the 2021-2022 cohort. And although we're hosting this graduation as a virtual event, we're pleased that this cohort was able to have most of their fellowship in person. I can't say that for our previous cohort who spent the entire 9 months in obscure virtual world. So I'm glad that this cohort was able to get back to some sense of normalcy. And I actually can't say enough about their resilience in being flexible and adaptable to their learning and work environments. Public service is an unheralded job. During times of crisis, as well as during the mundane, public servants work to create public policy that benefits all of society. A reflective democracy means the evolution of public policy that includes different perspectives and experiences to address the needs of those whose issues have long been overlooked and for our most vulnerable to be visible. APAICS fellows have a long history in supporting the work of their host offices. They are the shining examples of APAICS' mission of increasing AA and NHPI representation at all levels of government. It's our hope that this experience allows each of the fellows to further their professional developments so that they can build a meaningful career as part of the public service ecosystem. These fellows will always be a part of the APAICS family, and I hope that you will continue to see APAICS as a resource. We owe a debt of gratitude to co-founders, former Secretary Norman Y. Mineta and former Delegate Robert Underwood. With the passing of Secretary Mineta, it is critical that we uphold his expectations of us to be open-minded, to reach across the aisle, and to most importantly, listen. He often said that you own two things that no one else owns, your name and your integrity, and protect them both. We would not be able to do this work without Kpac and the leadership of Chairwoman Representative Judy Chu and her team, and we look forward to hearing from her shortly. So allow me to turn it back to Danielle.
All right, thank you so much, Marilyn. Now it's time for member remarks. And so Marilyn will introduce the first member of Congress.
And I'm delighted to see that we have Kpac Chair and APAICS Board Member, Congresswoman Judy Chu. She was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in July 2009, and she represents the 27th Congressional District. She currently serves on the House Ways and Means Committee as a member of the Subcommittee on Health. She also serves on the House Small Business Committee as well as House Budget Committee. And in 2009, she became the first Chinese American woman elected to Congress in history. Please welcome Kpac Chair, Congresswoman Judy Chu.
Well, thank you so much. It is so great to be here with all of you for the 2022 APAICS Fellowship Graduation Ceremony. Despite what a challenging year it's been, I'm so glad we are able to come together virtually to celebrate the 9 outstanding APAICS fellows who are graduating today. Despite the uncertainty of COVID-19, I've been so impressed with how well our APAICS fellows have adjusted to navigating the complexities of Capitol Hill and how much they've accomplished over the past 9 months. Of course, none of this would be possible without APAICS fearless leader, Marilyn Milka, and all the sponsors represented today who make the APAICS Fellowship Program possible. Thanks to your support, APAICS is able to provide young AAPI professionals with the important skills they need to succeed in their careers. In fact, I've witnessed the impact of the APAICS program firsthand throughout my time here in Congress, where so many former APAICS fellows have gone on to pursue careers in public service as chiefs of staff, leaders of nonprofit organizations, White House officials, and even elected officials themselves. And thanks to APAICS, we now have more AAPIs in public service than ever before. This year, APAICS had their largest fellows cohort ever, with 9 fellows and an additional 11 racial equity fellows. I'm very proud of all the APAICS fellows who are graduating today, but I especially want to acknowledge Mariam Tariq, who was the APAICS fellow in my office and has done such an outstanding job throughout her fellowship, working on a wide range of issues. Because of Mariam's strong interest in healthcare, she not only was a primary contact for my office with many health-related organizations, speaking directly with patient advocates and their families, but she was also our office's liaison to the Medicare for All caucus and pushed us forward in helping to advocate for healthcare for everyone. She was instrumental in her work with the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or Kpac, which I chair, specifically in working on communications, spearheading our member spotlights on social media, and helping to introduce bills like the APA Heritage Month resolution and AAPI Mental Health Day resolution. And Miriam was also an integral part of the team that manages all our Kpac member meetings with high-ranking administration officials like cabinet secretaries and Attorney General Merrick Garland. She not only took on the work of my personal office, but immersed herself in the workings of the AAPI community on Capitol Hill through her work with Kpac. And based on what I've heard on this impressive fellowship class, I know that all the other APAICS fellows here today have done tremendous work within their respective offices as well. And through your fellowships, you've been able to gain invaluable insight into not just the inner workings of our federal government, but also the importance of having AAPIs at the table where the decisions are being made. I know that all our fellows have bright futures ahead, and I look forward to seeing the amazing things that each of you will accomplish in your careers. Congratulations again to our 2022 APAICS graduates.
Thank you, Chairwoman Chu, for your remarks and for always being a stalwart leader for us in our community. Next, I'd like to welcome Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland. The Congresswoman proudly represents Washington's 10th Congressional District. She is the first African-American woman to represent Washington State at the federal level, and one of the first Korean-American women elected to Congress in its 230-year history. She serves as a member of the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, in addition to the House Armed Services Committee. Please welcome Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland.
Thank you, Marilyn, for that introduction, and congratulations to the 2022 APAICS Fellow class. We are so excited that you have completed this part of your journey, but I want you to know that this is just the beginning of it. We often talk about representation mattering, and I tell folks that representation does matter, but it only matters if you're going to put in the work and pass policies that will benefit our community. I think that's a very important distinction to make. And we know that we're not a monolith. We represent a lot of different perspectives and life experiences, but at the same time, there are things that we share. We all want to live in safe neighborhoods. We want to have access to good schools. We want economic opportunity. We want to make sure that when we talk about climate change, that our communities are included in this. And as we talk about some of the big investments that we want to make as a nation, we want to make sure that we are at the table, that we have a voice, and if possible, it's okay for us to be at the head of that table. I think about Lou, who worked in my office, who was a fellow, and he had a chance to get his hands involved in a lot of different topics. And I think it's important because sometimes when we think about our community, we don't think of policymaking or politics as a natural place that we should end up. And sometimes our parents don't steer us in that direction. We just don't have a presence and don't have relationships. So much of the work that you have done in your time as fellows is building relationships, getting to know people, and making sure that if you decide to pursue a public service career, whether it's as a staffer, whether it's as a chief, working for a committee, or even running for office yourself, that you have the contacts and the ability to call on people to assist you. So I thank you so much for the work that you have done for us. You've helped make our country a lot stronger. These are some challenging times right now, and we know that making sure that we are present, that our voices are heard, and that we continue to talk about the needs of our community will only make this nation stronger. So thank you for being part of this particular class. We are so excited that you were able to serve with us. And as I said earlier, this is just the beginning of your journey. Congratulations, and thank you for serving our country.
Thank you, Congresswoman Strickland, for joining us today. Next, I'd like to welcome Congresswoman Young Kim, who represents California's 39th District. She is proud to be one of the first Korean American women ever to serve in Congress, and she currently sits on the Committee on Foreign Affairs, the House Small Business Committee, as well as the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Please welcome Congresswoman Young Kim.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. Gosh, my district, 39th district, includes parts of Orange, Los Angeles, and San Bernardino counties in Southern California. And I'm really excited to be with you all as we celebrate your graduation. And I commend each and every one of you for your work this semester as an APAICS Fellow in a congressional or a Senate office. In my office, I have the distinct honor of having Chris Zhang in my office. And I know all 9 of you were tremendous assets who were vital to keeping your offices running. Chris was very articulate. He was fun. I'm sure if, as you graduate, if you had to, just like the movies that you watched, like if you had to pick the most fun and outgoing person, I'm pretty sure you will vote for Chris Zhang. So he was very instrumental in my office and also participated in the legislation, bill introduction, one that I really would like to commend him for getting his hands deeply into introduction of my bill to handle the crisis at the southern border. Is the comprehensive southern border strategy. And with his articulation and getting involved and learning about the issues, he was able to help me among many other things that he got involved in. So thank you, Chris. And I'm sure you're going to take this information. I'm really happy to tell everyone that we're going to bring him on as a full-time staff in my office. So Chris, you're not going anywhere. And this is something that the rest of the graduates can look forward to, I'm sure, in your respective offices. And you take this experience you gained to use it as a opportunity, as a stepping stone for something else that you're going to, I'm sure, build your career on. But as was mentioned by Marilyn, I am one of the first Korean American women to serve in Congress. And I also served as a former congressional staffer for over 2 decades. So when I say I know how hard you all worked over the last few months in our respective offices, I truly mean it because I've been there, done that. I also understand how important this program is as we work to expand opportunities for all Americans and ensure our AAPI community has a seat at the table in these very important policy discussions. As an immigrant from South Korea, I came here, but I was able to put myself through school, start a business, and now I raise a family. I raised 4 children, and now I'm a grandma. But I'm able to do this because America provides all that opportunity for us. Now I am able to represent the community I have called home for decades. And to me, this shows the American dream is alive and it's real. However, I don't say this because my story is unique. As Asian Americans, striving to succeed and serving our community are deeply embedded in who we are. And I believe it's in now our DNA. As Asian Americans, I am proud to say that our issues are American issues. And that's why I'm glad that APAICS can bring Republicans and Democrats together to advocate for our community and for all Americans. Just as I know I would not be where I am without those who came before me and paved the way for someone like me to have a seat at the table, I know that I have to make sure that I bring more people along with me and share my path in hopes that someone can then come with me, make a trail of their own. That's what I hope each of you remember as you finish your fellowship and embark on the next chapter of your career. Each of you worked hard to get to this point, but I also encourage you to remember who helped you along the way and paid forward to others. You all have had mentors along the way and should not be afraid to have more. At the same time, don't be afraid to take a mentee under your wing. I don't think I'm alone when I say we need more of us here in Washington, especially from across different political spectrum. Soon, rather than later, I really hope that I can see some of you walking down the halls of Congress, maybe as staff for the a short time, but in the long run, I really hope that I can serve with you in Congress or in any other capacity together. So congratulations, please keep in touch. And I look forward to hearing how each of you continue to serve your communities and uplift our AAPI voices and make our nation a better place. Better yet, like I said, I hope to see some of you in the halls of Congress with me someday. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Congresswoman Kim, for your leadership and for joining us today. It's my pleasure now to introduce Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher, who represents Texas 7th Congressional District. She was elected to represent the district in 2018, and she currently serves on the House Committee on Energy and Commerce and on the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marilyn, for that introduction. It's great to be with all of you and to see you on my screen here as we celebrate the APAICS Fellowship Class of 2022. And first, I really want to thank everyone at APAICS for your work to promote Asian American and Pacific Islander participation and representation on Capitol Hill and throughout all levels of government. Creating programs that focus on developing leadership skills and in-depth public policy knowledge, creating professional networks, especially creating networks for AAPI folks to work on Capitol Hill. It's just really critical to creating and maintaining a diverse workforce in the Congress. And as Congresswoman Kim said, hopefully to really bringing along people who may choose to work on the Hill or elsewhere in public policy or to run for office themselves one day. Certainly in my time in Congress, I've met many former staffers and know that this is one way to engage and to decide where you want to fit when it comes to how you want to serve the public. But that is what this fellowship is all about. And I'm just so grateful for what you've done to create a program that is really meaningful and really helps further our goals of having a more diverse workforce here on the Hill. And I think it's really important to building not only potential future candidates or folks out in the world, but a strong pipeline of staffers on the Hill. And we know that it's important in our office and in offices throughout the Congress to have diverse representation and to connect with people in our districts. And we know how important it is to have that diversity of experience and perspective. And so I just think it's really great. And the work of APAICS is so important in placing program participants in congressional offices, opening the doors for talented young Asian Americans pursuing a career in public policy. And of course, I have seen this firsthand, as I'm sure y'all are hearing the bell, but I would love to take just a minute and congratulating all of you to point out that part of the reason I'm so excited to be with you today is because we have had the opportunity to have Kevin Ku, one of this year's fellows, in our office this year. And so I'm really thrilled to be here to be able to celebrate Kevin's graduation as well as all of your graduation and congratulate all of you. I mean, during his fellowship, Kevin has handled work in all areas of our office. Sorry about the bell. But he's that should be the last one. Okay. He's been working with me on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, which has been fantastic. But he's also handled a portfolio of other issues as well, and that includes defense, foreign affairs, and very important in our district, issues with the Postal Service. He oversaw an investigation into several post offices in my district after hundreds of constituents contacted our office about serious challenges with delayed and lost mail, mail theft, broken collection boxes, all sorts of hugely important issues to people in the district. And Kevin really oversaw this entire effort to have an audit to make sure that we were solving problems for people in our district. And so his work has just been absolutely vital. He also helped with some really important legislation. We introduced a bill on PFAS research, the PFAS Research and Evaluation Act, to implement a study nationwide that the EPA is going to be directed to do. It's passed out of our committee, and he shepherded that bill through committee and through the process. And so now the bill will hopefully get to the floor soon for a vote by the full House. I see that Priyanka is on here, so hopefully she can share with us, hopefully the timing of that. But really, you know, Kevin just sort of moved in and hit the ground running and has been engaged in so many things, including sort of toward the end of this fellowship, organizing a reception on Monday to launch the Congressional Friends of Belgium caucus, where we had several foreign dignitaries, members of Congress, lots of congressional staff present. And of course, we're thrilled to be able to spend the evening celebrating the partnership, the transatlantic partnership between the United States and Belgium. And the reason that event was such a success was because of Kevin's just incredible efforts on that front, and also making sure that we had chocolates and Belgian beer and frites and all sorts of things to make it something everyone would want to come to. But it was just terrific to have him as part of our team in kind of every way. He's been an integral part of our office, always willing to go the extra mile to help people, just genuinely enthusiastic and engaged. And that's what's so important, I think, about this program and connecting people who have that energy and enthusiasm and desire to be a part of our public policy making, because that's what we need right now. And that's what we need across the board in our country, whether it's in Congress, whether it's in our state legislatures, our city councils. We need people engaged at all levels, both as the representatives and as the elected officials and as a talented staff. And I know in my office, we rely so much on our entire team in working together to bring ideas, to represent our constituents, to advocate for them. And so it is really, it's just really wonderful to have been able to have this connection and to have him as a fellow in our office. And I have to say, for those, you know, I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm really, really thrilled that at the end of his fellowship, he has accepted our offer to stay on our team as a legislative assistant and will be with us through the end of the year. So we are just so thrilled to have Kevin as part of our team. And it wouldn't have been possible without this fellowship and without you all doing the work to identify these incredible candidates and bring them to the Hill. So I really want to thank APAICS and the program for your work in helping identify people and helping encouraging people to pursue careers in public policy. It's really important that the people who are at the table making decisions, the people who are part of this legislative effort, are reflective of our diverse community and of the diverse experiences people have across the country. We know that geographic diversity is built in to the Constitution and to the House of Representatives, but that diversity of experience and perspective is so vitally important to coming up with good, meaningful policy that has an impact on people's lives. And so I'm just really, really grateful to APAICS for helping make that possible, creating this pipeline and encouraging folks to stay involved. And I think, you know, hearing the end of Congresswoman Kim, I would just agree with her that I hope to continue to see everyone in this class. I'm getting to see your faces on my screen now, but continuing to see you here on the Hill or in other capacities, working across the country to try to make ours a more perfect union. We have a lot of work to do, but being here, working with Kevin and so many others, I just am so hopeful about what the future holds for all of us. But it takes good people showing up, doing the work, engaging, leaning in instead of giving up. And I think that when we do that, and when we all understand and participate in in our government and in our society, we're that much better for it. And so I just really want to congratulate all of you for making the choice to do that, making the choice to serve our country and our communities, and engaging in public policy in ways that are meaningful. So I just want to congratulate you all. I hope to see you here in Congress in many capacities, including hopefully someday as a colleague on the floor of the House. But I know that you will be successful in whatever you do. I've seen the strength and the just incredible talent in this program. And so I'm glad to be able to join you briefly during your graduation, and just congratulate all of you. Thank you so much for what you do. And thanks again to APAICS, and congrats to the entire Congressional Fellowship class of 2022.
Thank you, Congresswoman Fletcher. We appreciate you joining us today. Please allow me to introduce Kpac Whip and Congressman Ted Lieu, who serves California's 33rd Congressional District. He sits on the House Judiciary Committee and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Please welcome Congressman Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Marilyn, for your leadership of APAICS. Thank you, Congresswoman Fletcher, for your great remarks, and congratulations to class of 2022. And now is an exciting time to be a part of the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community. If you look at the last 2 U.S. Census reports, it shows that there has been dramatic growth in the AAPI community. Since 2000, the AA-NHPI community has more than doubled in size. And according to Pew Research Organization, by 2055, Asian Americans will become the largest immigrant group in America. I want to also commend all of you for your public service, and all of you are here because you also believe that a government that looks more like the people it represents will be a stronger, more resilient government. I want to give you an example of what diversity in government has done and what the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus has done. So several years ago, I read a story about Sherry Chen, an Asian American federal employee. She had been arrested by the FBI, charged with essentially being a spy. And then after her life was turned upside down, all the charges were dropped. So I read the story, it was disturbing, and I started to write and circulate a letter to the Department of Justice. Before I could finish circulating the letter, I read another story about Professor Shi at Temple University. He was also arrested by the FBI, charged with espionage type charges. And then after his life was turned upside down, all those charges were dropped. And as we looked into this some more, there were additional cases where defendants would be charged, essentially being a spy. And then later on, all those charges would be dropped. And the only thing that was the same among all these cases is that the defendants look like you and me. They happen to be Asian American. So the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, we did press conferences, we wrote op-eds, we met with administration officials, we worked with civil rights groups and groups like APAICS, and we got the Department of Justice to do 2 things. The Attorney General stated that she was going to institute another layer of review in Washington, D.C., so cases like this didn't happen. And then second, she instituted implicit bias training at the Department of Justice. To us, there was a recognition that the Department of Justice understood there was some sort of discrimination happening, whether it was implicit or intentional. Now, is it possible that a bunch of Irish American members of Congress would have done the same thing? Sure, it's possible, except no one did. It took Asian American members of Congress to get angry at what was happening and then to try to correct what we perceive to be discrimination. So we also unfortunately saw additional discrimination with the last administration, including with their implementation of something called the China Initiative, which led to additional racial profiling of Asians in a number of cases that they lost in court. So again, we had to raise our voices and basically confront the Department of Justice. And to their credit, they have now stopped the China Initiative program, because at the end of the day, all Americans, regardless of race or ethnicity, should be treated the same. And you cannot view any individual with higher suspicion because of their race or ethnicity. And then let me conclude with just a recommendation to all of you. As far as I can tell, you only live once. So you should pursue your dreams. If your dream is to be an elected official or to work in government or to be a jazz musician or to be a lawyer or a doctor or a ballet dancer, whatever that dream is, you should pursue it, because I know of no other lifetime in which you do it. So with that, congratulations again, and look forward to working with all of you as we make America an even better place to live, work, and play.
Thank you, Congressman Liu, for joining us and for your wise words. Next, we have Congresswoman Camilla Jayapal. Unfortunately, she could not make it with us today, and so she has sent in a recorded remarks, but as an introduction, she was elected in 2016 and is the representative for Washington's 7th Congressional District. She sits on the House Judiciary Committee, as well as the House Education and Labor and Budget Committees. Please welcome Congresswoman Camilla Jayapal.
I'm Congresswoman Camilla Jayapal, and I'm proud to serve Washington's 7th Congressional District in the House of Representatives, where I also serve as chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Thank you to APAICS for inviting me to share a few words today. First of all, congratulations to the 2022 fellows. I've been lucky enough to have one of these fabulous members of this graduating class as a fellow in my office. Remy's hard work, attention to policy details, and incredible spirit have been immensely helpful to all of the work we do, and at such a pivotal moment for our agenda and our country. As the first South Asian American woman ever elected to the House of Representatives and one of only 24 immigrants serving in Congress, I understand how important it is to have diverse voices in the rooms where decisions are made and where policy is written. But unfortunately, so much of our government still lacks the diversity of the communities that we represent. This fellowship has helped to break down those barriers and get our best and our brightest, all of you, into the rooms and Zooms that you need to be in. So, as you consider your next steps, please remember that your voice and your work is vital, and it must be heard and seen. Continue your public service in any way that you can. Continue asking the tough questions. Continue researching and learning and driving the policy making that we do. And continue using the power that you have. Never stop speaking up for yourself, for all of our communities, and for what's right. I am truly so honored to be a part of this community and to be able to stand with each and every one of you in the days ahead. Congratulations again. And I wish each and every one of you the best of luck in whatever comes next.
Great. Now it's time to hear from our class speakers. We're happy to hear from two amazing speakers that we'll hear from this cohort. So first up is Lou Panicoli. He was placed with Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland. So Lou, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are joined here today to celebrate the completion of our Congressional Fellowship Program. We must acknowledge that while this may be the end of our time with APAICS, it is just the beginning of our professional journey in public service. Knowing that APAICS will always be there to support us as we embark upon our respective journeys. However, as we embark on our respective journeys of success, we are leaving the program feeling the full support coming from the AAPI community in DC. I would like to recognize those fierce leaders who have paved the way for our success, like Chairwoman Judy Chu, Representative Marilyn Strickland, who I had the pleasure of working for, Senator Tammy Duckworth, and the very founder of APAICS, the late Secretary Norman Mineta. Although Secretary Mineta is no longer with us, we were reminded of his legacy and the path he paved for the broader AAPI community. These past 9 months have been transformative for all of us. APAICS to me is not only an amazing organization that promotes AAPI leadership on all political levels, it is a second family that embraces and nurtures the success of its fellows, alumni, staff, and all members of the AAPI community. Despite the time of uncertainty that we as a nation and community have experienced with the COVID-19 pandemic, the growing problem of AAPI hate crimes, the fate of Roe v. Wade, and the tragic deaths of so many historical figures who have made their marks upon the world, we have persevered and remained resilient in the face of adversity and hatred. It is this perseverance and resilience transcending generations that is the reason the AAPI community is able to thrive no matter what we face. Lastly, I'd like to personally thank the staff, the APAC staff, and all members of Congress who took the time to attend our graduation ceremony, celebrating our accomplishments as AAPI young professionals. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you to my office, Representative Strickland's office, and APAICS. I look forward to serving as a valuable member of the APAICS Alumni Network.
Great. Thank you so much, Lou, for those touching words. We really appreciate hearing that you and the whole cohort had a wonderful experience with us. So next class speaker is Elise Inouye, placed in Senator Mazie Hirono's office.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to start by saying thank you to all in attendance today. We appreciate you taking the time to join us and celebrate our cohort. Last September, at the start of the fellowship, we were prompted with an important question. If you were a potato, what kind of potato would you be and why? And as time went on, we were presented with new questions, like what are the pitfalls of Social Security income caps? What can we do to advocate on behalf of those excluded from the Fair Labor Standards Act? And perhaps one of the most prudent questions, how is the sushi in the Rayburn cafeteria? This fellowship has been life-changing in many ways, and in the months we spent learning about federal policy and engagement, we were also establishing relationships with colleagues, organizations, and people from the larger AA and NHPI community. The work we have accomplished has been very fulfilling, particularly for those of us who were placed with a member who represents our home district. And while we were doing things like overseeing efforts to address postal issues, advocating to cover the costs of kosher and halal meals in schools, and championing Native Hawaiian inclusivity and policy within our separate offices, we were still learning and growing together as a group. Throughout the fellowship, our cohort has cheered each other on for everything from drafting memos and attending hearings to pitching policies and leading staff briefings. We have supported each other through hybrid work environments, appropriation season, and most recently, DC humidity. And in the midst of this whirlwind of exciting opportunities, somewhere between filling up on free food at receptions to commemorating Lunar New Year together, we found friendship and comfort, which manifested in karaoke nights and ice cream dates. The members of this cohort represent the future of the AA and NHPI community. We are a culmination of unique experiences and insight with a strong passion to effect positive change. A fire has been lit within our generation. It motivates us to ask hard questions, gives us courage to stand up for what is right, and inspires us to advocate on behalf of those we care about and those in need as we develop solutions to tackle the greatest problems facing our country, our communities, and our country. 9 months ago, many of us met for the first time in our Zoom orientation, and now we come full circle as we gather together for our last official event as fellows, our Zoom graduation. On behalf of our cohort, I'd like to thank our members for hosting us in their offices and allowing us to expand our knowledge and practical experience on policy areas that we care about. I'd also like to thank our sponsors for funding our fellowships and making this opportunity possible. And a huge shout out to the small but mighty APAICS team for their hard work and dedication to managing these programs, building a robust network, and increasing AA and NHPI participation and representation in public service on the Hill and across the country. To my wonderful cohort, Nikki, Casey, Miriam, Remy, Kevin, Chris, Lou, and Habib, I would not have been able to navigate this unfamiliar territory without you all, and I feel extremely fortunate and thankful to have been placed in this group. You are some of the best people I know, and I'm excited to see what the future brings because I'm confident that each of you will achieve great things. It has been an honor to represent APAICS and the state of Hawaii in this position. Mahalo.
Elise, thank you so much for those remarks and encapsulating your professional experience and growth overall in your cohort, and of course, the strong bond that you were all able to create. So proud of each and one of you, and thank you for those remarks. All right, so now we'll move on to the graduation class readout. And so while I read out your names, we'll make sure you're pinned and have your screen as spotlighted. So first, we will start with Remy Gola with Representative Camilla Jayapal's office with Washington. Elise Inoue with Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii. Kevin Koo with Representative Lizzie Fletcher of Texas. Casey Lee with Representative Ted Lieu of California. Nikki Oka with Representative Kai Kahele of Hawaii. Lou Panicoli with Representative Marilyn Strickland of Washington. Habib Rahman Kader with Representative Greg Smeng of New York. And Mariam Tariq with Representative Chu of New York. And Mariam, thank you so much for joining from the hospital, and you look amazing. And last but not least, Christopher Zen with Representative Young Kim of California. Right, so just want to congratulate everyone, and apologies again for not being able to present these certificates in person, and but I'm so glad that everyone had a great experience with the fellowship program, and that some of you will remain in DC and will continue to see each other. So next up is the APAICS Alumni Association remarks. And so we have Priyanka Hugan joining us. So Priyanka was a 2015-2016 fellow with Senator Mazie Hirono, and she's the current subcommittee on environment staff director for the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. So Priyanka, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction, Danielle, and thank you to APAICS for having the Alumni Association participate in today's graduation. It's been really inspiring to hear from so many members of Congress and Kpac members about their positive experiences with hosting a fellow from this class. It's also really exciting to hear that some of our fellowship cohort are going to be staying on in their offices and staying on Capitol Hill. And don't worry, I'll be following up with Kevin and Congresswoman Fletcher on that bill. So as Danielle mentioned, I'm Priyanka Hugan. I was a fellowship alumna from the class of 2015 to 2016 with Senator Mazie Hirono, and I'm also the current vice chair of the APAICS Alumni Association. So on behalf of the Alumni Association, let me be the first to welcome you to the APAICS alumni family. Welcome, graduates. We are really excited to have you join us. Each cycle, we are impressed by our fellows who come from a variety of backgrounds and experiences and bring their own personal flavor to each fellowship cohort. For many of my fellow alumni, our APAICS Fellowship marked the beginning of careers in public service. We are excited to see how this fellowship experience impacts your future careers. It is an unparalleled opportunity to understand what makes Capitol Hill tick and get a sense of where you might see yourself in this vast landscape of players that are engaged in the political process. The great thing about being a fellow on Capitol Hill is that everyone's fellowship experience is a snapshot in time that captures that moment in our nation's history. Your time on the Hill is no different. Even though we are 2 years into the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and Congress has a better handle on how to conduct business virtually as necessary, you certainly had a different fellowship experience than many of the previous fellows. Despite this, we hope that it hasn't changed your initial passion for public service and AA and HPI representation that drove you to apply to and accept this fellowship in the first place. Many of the alumni felt that the alumni network was one of the strongest parts of our fellowship experience. This is why we established the Fellowship Alumni Association in 2017. Just to be clear, the support and mentoring doesn't stop just because you are no longer a current APAICS fellow. So please continue to reach out to fellowship alumni as you navigate what comes next in these uncertain times. So to Chris, Nikki, Remy, Habib, Casey, Miriam, Elise, Kevin, and Lou. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments during your fellowship, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, and thank you so much for always serving as a great mentor and alumni resource, and of course, reminding them, the current cohort that, they will serve as, mentors and alumni members as well. So thank you so much for that. So now we're at the end of the graduation ceremony. So I'm going to hand it back to Marilyn for her closing remarks.
Thanks, Danielle. And let's give this cohort another round of applause. We're so appreciative of all the support that we get for putting on this program. So I'd like to recognize Amazon, API, Bristol Myers Squibb, Coca-Cola, DoorDash, Comcast, NBC Universal, Pepsi, Toyota, and Wells Fargo for their continued commitment in bringing diversity to the halls of Congress. I'd also like to thank all of the congressional offices that have hosted the APAICS Fellows for this cycle, and look forward to placing a new round of fellows in the upcoming September cohort. Let's also give a round of appreciation to the APAICS team, specifically the programs team, Danielle Moon, Nicholas Kashaba, and a new addition, Mackenzie Loy. And to all the interns, volunteers, board members, and the extended APAICS team who support our work, we greatly appreciate each of you and making sure that we have quality programming. We want to celebrate this moment of joy and congratulate the APAICS Fellows for their achievements. So please join us today in congratulating them, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.